And here we go, man, as we sit around tonight wondering where Javon Small will end up in round two of the NBA draft. We've been having the itch to talk a little bit of Mountaineer basketball, Noah, something that you definitely specialize a little bit more in terms of X's and O's in basketball than I do. But as we both know, you and I huge fans. And here we go, man. A new era, not only football, but basketball too. And in a weird way, it's like it's getting put on the back burner just because everybody's so excited for football, as we should be. But as you and I keep saying, when it's time to transition to basketball season, fans are going to be really happy, I think, with the roster that Ross Hodge has put together for this upcoming year. And Noah, before we kind of dive into any players, let's actually start with Ross Hodge himself. You and I have kind of been hinting at some sort of thing. So let's start from this aspect. What is your overall take on Ross Hodge as far as the hire? Did you like the hire? Did you not like the hire? What were kind of your initial thoughts?
Kind of when I was looking into the coaching search Gage, I looked more into the sense of who was Ren Baker's guy, right? Because we saw these names floating around: Calhoun, Patino, the guy from I can't remember the
Colorado
school,
State.
Colorado State, Medved,
Yep.
Nico
Medved.
Medved's the name.
Yep.
Um, Good. All these guys are good coaches, solid coaches. But it kind of seemed as if because of the way the guy we won't mention, the snake, went, Ren Baker was looking for his guy. And I think that's what we're going to get in Ross Hodge. He's worked with him before. There's experience there. They know each other. And I think you're going to have a little bit more of a sense of loyalty and a little bit more of that hard edge, tough nose, blue collar mentality from this guy, because I think Ross Hodge, what he's going to do is embody the state a little bit more. So I actually enjoyed the hire. At first glance, it's not a flashy hire, but it's something. The more you look into it, the more you do your own research, you start to kind of say, well, this is a really good fit for West Virginia, and this is a really good situation that Ross Hodge is walking into, and he can kind of build his own little legacy here in Morgantown because there's been a little bit of separation from success here at West Virginia.
I will say, yeah, definitely. I like that take. And me, on the other hand, I'll kind of be realistic with you. I was not a fan of the hire at first when it first got announced and everything. And I'm sure, like most Mountaineer fans, we're probably like, what? Or like, we're going with who? Like, that's kind of where I was at. But obviously, when I kind of dove into the numbers a little bit, I knew of North Texas, just kind of mid-major basketball. We keep up with it a little bit more than others. So I knew that they were good, but I didn't know the identity and things like that. And what really helped me, Noah, actually was when he got hired, they were still, or not when he got hired, but when it kind of, the news was there and we were waiting for it to be official, they were still in the NIT where they made that deep run. And I think, after when I got the chance to sit down and watch those games, I was like, okay, this guy's going to fit perfectly here. Like you said, if he kind of says this is where I want to start my coaching legacy in terms of Power Four, he has all the resources that he needs from Ren Baker. Donors, I believe, will get on board if they're not already once the success starts happening. He's going to have everything he needs to be successful. And like you said, he embodies kind of that defensive first. You and I have talked about kind of the Houston model that we think that he's going to follow. And when you look at the Big 12 kind of conference schedule and the way things go, we know more times than not after watching last year, you need to rely on defense more than you do offense. You will have the games where your offense flails out. You're not going to be able to score as many points as what maybe your average says. But one thing that can show up, two things actually, that can show up consistently are defense and effort. And not saying that any of those guys in this past year's team showed lack of effort or things like that. But when you embrace that defensive mentality, man, you see the effort come immediately. And I think that's kind of where Mountaineer fans were at. They're like, well, we don't really know what we're getting. We need to see it because you say he didn't have any Power Four coaching experience, but he's a really, really good coach. Really good, I believe. At least I think you as well in terms of X's and O's, knowing the game inside out. He's a really good coach. Has the loyalty ties with Ren Baker. After learning from his previous experience with Snake DeVries, yeah, man, this was kind of a home run. I think when we look back, it'll be a home run hire if he has success. So, transitioning, Noah, this video right here, let's talk a little bit and kind of introduce fans to Mountaineer Nation and some of the guys, what's going on here, that we'll be expecting on the court. And I'll pass it to you while I get this fixed. Talk about what I believe is kind of the proven going into this year, right? We know for a fact the face of this team is Treysen Eaglestaff and Honor Huff. So tell us, Noah, what we're getting with those two guys and why, if we're going to be successful, it starts with those two right there.
Yeah, and I think something, Gage, that you hit on there when you were speaking last is, have the donors got on schedule? Are they bought into this? Based off this little transfer portal class we put together, I'm going to go out here on the wing and say, yeah, I think they're bought in pretty well. You land Treysen Eaglestaff, who was a highly, highly sought after transfer guy, and then Honor Huff, who was another guy that had power forward looks all over. Huff a little bit less because of the size that he stands at and not playing the one guard traditionally. But when you look at Eaglestaff and Huff, what they're going to bring to this game, you've got two elite shot makers, right? So offensively, you are going to get production from these guys. When you have them on the floor together, their team is going to have to decide, okay, which guy does our best defender guard? Huff stated when he was on three guys before the game with Caridi and them, he knows that he hasn't even met his full potential yet, because before he settled for the three ball. The year before, he was driving to the paint. He says if he can get those two things rolling at once, his offensive game can only get further. Eaglestaff, if you watch him play, I think he scored 40-some points against Alabama and 50-some in the is it the Big Sky Conference? With North
Yeah, I
Dakota?
believe so. North Dakota State, I believe. I'll double check for you. Go ahead.
So he scored 51 points in a conference tournament game over there. That was actually just amazing to watch the shots he was able to make. A big time shot maker. Kind of going on the Ace Bailey route. We just saw him get drafted last night. Eaglestaff hasn't saw a shot that he doesn't like because he's used to shooting over guys. He's used to doing these things. When you get these guys on the floor at the same time, the defense is really going to struggle for one, because which side do you help from? If you put these guys on opposite sides of the floor, what side do you help? Because if you help off a Huff, he's going to knock down the three. And even when you look at the pieces around these guys, they're all 3-point shot makers. They all shoot above a 30% clip. So when you look at the building of this team in a whole, they just fit very, very well together, Gage. I'll let you kind of hop into some of the other guys there, but with Eaglestaff and Huff, what you're going to see is an offensive explosion. And if Ross Hodge can get Eaglestaff to buy in on the defensive end, which is why I think Eaglestaff chose to come to West Virginia and backing out of South Carolina, is to get those defensive roots. Because when he was at the NBA Combine, the Portland Trailblazers, I think he worked out with the Warriors as well, they all said that, look, if you can settle down defensively, you have a career here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the Summit League, not the Big Sky, the Summit League,
yep.
North Dakota
That's
State.
it.
Yeah. Was going to spit out real quick a direct quote, obviously from Treysen Eaglestaff. He said, Coach Hodge emphasized that he has a lot of trust in me and my abilities. I think my role is to be a playmaker. So kind of gives you the leader mentality, I feel like, along with Huff. Those are the two guys when we saw last year when things go wrong, man, it's Javon Small, clear space out. Let's go make a play and see what happens. So yeah, we'll be looking at to those two guys specifically. We know about Eaglestaff dropping out from South Carolina coming here, which was huge. And then I honestly didn't even think that we had a chance at Honor Huff. When he kind of dropped his final 4 or 5, whatever it was, before he officially committed, I was like, there's no way that we end up getting this guy, right? And then when I saw we did, I was like, holy smokes, man, they're cooking over there. Like you said, we know that Honor Huff is a pure 3-point threat. And you and I actually talked a little bit of it's going to somewhat be easier on him with a guy like Eaglestaff, who can create his shot off the dribble and penetrate and drive. Like, I think Honor Huff is going to have a lot of spot up corner threes, which is going to be awesome as a shooter. You take 3 of those on a night anytime you can, moving off the ball, stuff like that. Next step in his game, not saying that he doesn't do it well already, but he talked about kind of maximizing his potential, kind of getting that mid-range pull-up game. Some of it due to height, obviously, not a ton, because those guys create really good space. But yeah, putting in the work for the mid-range, make that a lethal weapon, and it really makes him a 3-level scorer, because I have no doubt that he can finish at the rim. He proved it at Chattanooga. And once again, I'm not scared of the step up in competition for Huff or Eaglestaff. I don't believe it's going to affect their numbers. If anything, they'll kind of rise to the occasion. So flipping over Noah, like I said, those are kind of the proven, kind of another tier here. This isn't necessarily a tier video, but the guys that I'm comfortable with, right? I'm comfortable with them being on the floor. I feel all right as a fan when I'm like, okay, he's in the game, let's roll. Number one being the guard that's coming from North Texas, Jasper Floyd. I think he brings a sense of true one guard ability, right? When you think of a point guard, you kind of think of somebody who, first off, a little bit unselfish, being able to kind of facilitate, get guys involved. I love the role that Jasper Floyd played at North Texas this past year. And then not only that, he showed some games in the NIT tournament and in the regular season where he is a capable scorer at times. I mean, I'm talking foul trouble, or if rotations just kind of match up where Jasper Floyd needs to be the guy that's a primary scorer, I feel comfortable, right? I'm not saying that it's proven, and this isn't my first option, but I feel really comfortable with him kind of being at the one, kind of calling the shots of this Ross Hodge offense where he's already comfortable. Really good defender. Not going to really go into detail on that because he's coming from the system that's going to be employed. So feel comfortable with Jasper Floyd. Another guy, Noah, from North Texas, Brennan Laurent, guy we're super happy to get. Another guy that tested the NBA waters. Really kind of fits the mold of this 3-and-D athletic NBA wing. And I think the key for him, similar to what we just said about Honor Huff, is kind of maximizing and reaching his peak here at West Virginia. So kind of what do you think of the two North Texas guys coming over here with Floyd and Laurent, who I both think will be starters in my opinion?
Yeah, I think what you said about Floyd is perfect. Is he's going to be asked to play the one guard a lot this season, even though the ball might not be in his hands at all times because the two scoring threats we have in Eaglestaff and Huff. But Floyd can contribute in ways, in the sense if there's an open shot, he's going to knock it down. And if he needs to take it to the bucket, he can. He has the ability to do those things. If Eaglestaff or Floyd or Huff were to get into foul trouble, he's a guy that can pick up a little bit of the scoring load and take off some pressure and get some guys some open shots. In the sense of Floyd and what I see from him, he's going to have a little bit of a, not going to say reduction at all, but a bigger step into that power four role than say Eaglestaff or Huff will. But what he's going to make his bread and butter on is defense, because he's a big guard. He's 6'3". If he's guarding their one guard, which I think Huff might pull that one guard because of size things, Floyd is going to be a defender, and that's where he's going to make his money at for West Virginia. And Laurent, the same thing, Gage. Defensively, he is going to be a lockdown player, and that is what you need in the Big 12. Perimeter-wise, you need a big wing that can knock down a shot and play very, very high-level defense. Like we said, Laurent has the frame to play NBA. He's the guy on this roster that can boost himself up NBA draft boards because he has that prototypical wing size at 6'9", and he can put the ball on the floor as well, and does a tremendous job at rebounding. I don't know if you've looked at his numbers rebounding-wise, but as a forward, he puts up solid numbers. So when you look at Laurent and Floyd, what you're going to get is solid, consistent play. You're knowing what you're going to get from them every night, no matter what matchup they draw. They're going to play hard. They're going to play tough. And they already have the defensive mentality that that Ross Hodge demands from his players.
And he backs it up athletically too, right? I think that's where kind of some of the rebounding numbers come from, is just how athletic this guy is. And he has a couple block shots that I've saw, just Twitter clips, stuff like that. Like, the guy can get up. He's very athletic. The frame is not an issue. Yeah, it's a matter of will he kind of consistently knock down the three ball if we're looking to space the floor, something like that. But whatever role, he's kind of like that gadget guy, but I don't like calling him a gadget guy because he's really good kind of at what he does. So really key part, especially Noah, with kind of, as of right now, the lack of big men that we have and kind of size, other than a guy we'll get to later. Rebounding will be really crucial from that four spot on the floor, and a guy I think will be playing big minutes for us. Now, it helps. We brought in Jackson Fields from Troy, a 6'8", 210, once again a forward. I would shade more towards the 4 than the 3. He played a ton of games, started a ton of games at Troy, and I think just having a guy like that with a little bit of stability, like, right, I kind of put him in the comfortable category too, where it's like, I really appreciate having a guy where you can throw out on the floor and he kind of knows, you kind of know what he's going to give you, right? I would look for him to play kind of mistake-free basketball, always making the right read, whether it's an offensive set or transition, whatever we're rolling with. He's a guy I feel really comfortable, whether that's off the bench, coming in as a rotational piece, stepping in, if it's a matchup issue or something like that in the starting lineup, things like that. So I thought that was an interesting get. It'll be interesting to see how he plays out. And then a guy, no, I'm kind of excited about. He has, I know, some waiver issues going on right now. I believe he's going to miss 5 games. Chance Moore coming over from St. Bonaventure. Before I kind of get into it, right, spent some time up there this past fall. Normal kids would go to the library to study, do their homework and stuff like that. Anytime that I had, I needed to get out of my apartment, whatever I was doing, needed to go study, I would actually go to the gym and do my homework. And these guys would always be down there playing pickup basketball. St. Bonaventure this past year, they had 2 really good mid-major guards, one being Chance Moore, the other Melvin Council. Listen, man, not only from a game aspect, from what, I got to see at St. Bonaventure and everybody like that, this guy in pickup, right? A lot of these guys were looking at him. He was the leader of that team, in my opinion. This past year at Bonaventure, 13 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1 assist. He plays a little bit of a methodical style. And when I say that, I mean pace, right? He operates at this kind of, I'm going to go at my pace when I'm kind of breaking you down at the top of the key or getting to my spots. I'm not going to speed up. It's kind of really fun to watch if you get a chance to go look at it. I think that this is a guy where I would put in like a wild card category where if he hits for us, now you're talking about, okay, we're 8 deep, 9 deep. We're able to throw teams different looks all the time. We match up really well. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to stand out defensively. That's not an issue. Offensively, if he can get to his spots and be a capable scorer for us, man, that's where we start to talk about pieces really coming together and this being a special year 1 season for the Mountaineers.
That's something to look at, Gage. Kind of what you hit on there was that 8, 9 deep, but throwing different rotations. You look at Texas Tech last year, and I'm blanking on the name of the player. JT Toppin? Is that the
Toppin? Yep.
Last year?
Yep. Yeah, kind of like he was like 6'8". They put him at the 5. He was an undersized guy, but yeah, got it done in a lot of different ways.
Exactly. So when you look at Moore, Lorient, if you have a situation where you can throw multiple different lineups, maybe who we haven't hit on yet, but we will, Harlan Obiaha. When you look at him and you say, okay, maybe he doesn't fit defensively what we're trying to do in this game plan, and you can give a guy like Lorient or Moore, you can throw different matchups at a team who doesn't have a traditional 5 or a traditional 4 in a sense. That is what makes teams very, very good, where they can adjust mid-game to what they need to, what they're getting killed on. JT Toppin, obviously a phenomenal player at Texas Tech last year, and not saying any, one of these guys would be able to go out there and guard them one-on-one, every possession of a game, but just being able to throw different looks at an offensive player is very, very good in messing up the flow of their offense and the game they're liking to play. So I think that, like you hit on there, being able to throw multiple things at teams is something we weren't able to do last year. If you were better than our top 6, top 7, then you were better than us because we didn't have anything else to throw at you.
Well said. And that's why Chance Moore is kind of intriguing for this team, right? Because this past season at Bonaventure, he shot 25% from 3. So when you think of the mold and the build of this team, sit down, plays defense, efficient shooters along the wing, things like that, Chance Moore gets it done in a little bit of a different way. Like I said, it's a break you down, get to my spot in the mid-range. But in my opinion, he's an above-average finisher. So I kind of deem him as like a slasher, right? You think of like the 2K archetype, stuff like that. He's really good around the rim. Doesn't turn the ball over a ton, which I say that because a lot of the time this past year, Bonaventure's point guard went down, so he was playing the 1 there for a little bit, which really good ball handler. So at 6'6", he would kind of shade more towards like the small forward shooting guard role, being able to kind of handle the ball as well. So I would look at him like a combo guard, but kind of excited to see what he brings. Hopefully all the waiver stuff has finally worked out. Like I said, I believe it's 5 games that he'll miss. Kind of is what it is, whatever. But moving on, Noah, another guard, specifically a 2 guard, Morris Ugasuk. Hope I'm saying that right. Actually from South Carolina. A lot of South Carolina ties in with this roster coming up with Eaglestaff and all that stuff. But this guy's kind of a wild card too, Noah, because unlike the mid-major guys who come up and kind of are already proven in a way, like they have the stats to back up their play, have the film, things like that, Morris Ugasuk, 6'4", 170 as of now. We'll see what he looks like coming in as far as weight and stuff like that. What do you I really don't know. Like, what do you think we're getting from him? Because I'm not going to sit here and kind of say false things and act like I know what's going on with him, but I think you kind of have an idea of what we're going to get.
think you're going to get a guy that's able to come off the bench and play good minutes in situations that he's very, very needed. If you get into a Eaglestaff foul trouble, Huff foul trouble, you're not going to worry about this guy going into the game, but you also can't expect him to go out there and score 15 points a night, right? You have to know that he's probably going to get 10, 15 minutes a game. But also at the same time, those 10 or 15-minute games, he's going to play his ass off. He's got something to prove, right? He came from the SEC, which was obviously, not in my opinion, but most people's opinion, the go-to college basketball conference last year. South Carolina obviously didn't have the best year in that conference, but they would have been good in other conferences if we get there. He's going to be able to prove himself here. And additionally, he's going to be a guy that's going to sit down and play defense. And when you need him, crucial, 5 minutes before the 8-minute before half, or if you're trying to get a guy a break before that 8-minute warning, those type of things, that's where you're going to see this guy come in. And there's going to be nights where, he is a Division I basketball player. So there's going to be nights where he soaks up. Sorry, Gage. Where he soaks up more minutes because he's hot, because he has the ball, he's hitting shots, or he's locking down the opposing player. That's what you're going to get from him. You can't expect this guy to come in and hold a role like Eaglestaff or hold a role like Huff. But what you can expect is he's going to be the guy that comes in before those breaks, giving these guys, extra little breaks. And people don't realize how important that is. But if Javon Small was able to get more breaks last year in the game where they tried to do a little bit, but we would often find ourselves in 4 or 5 minute scoring drops when he was off the court.
Yeah.
If you can bring a guy in like this and not miss a beat for 4 or 5 minutes, or be able to extend some of these breaks for Huff, Eaglestaff, we know the Big 12 is a very, very demanding league schedule, right? So that's whenever you're
show up every day. Show up every day, man, or you're going to lose to somebody you're not supposed to. That's kind of the motto of the Big 12 for sure. Something, he played consistent like 20 plus minutes for South Carolina. Had a couple games, obviously, where he scored the ball extremely well. At Vanderbilt, January 15th, had 20 points when they played Indiana, when they were ranked early in the season. He had 18. So a capable scorer. Just kind of, we'll be intrigued to see what his role is. And if it's potentially a guy who, we see him kind of develop and prove that he's an offensive player and hold his weight on that end of the floor, maybe it fits him better that he's going to come into a kind of a more half-court offensive style offense. You know what I mean? So kind of be interesting to see what he provides to us. I think obviously defense is a no-brainer, but room to grow on the offensive side, and we'll look kind of see what we have with him. Kind of a wild card guy, but I like him. And then the last part of this we saved for last because it's kind of the biggest question mark that we'll wrap up with. The center position specifically, Noah, 2 guys currently on roster. Obviously, Harlan Obiha from UNC Wilmington, a team that you and I really liked actually betting on this past season as far as mid-major basketball. And then Abraham Oyodire, I hope I'm saying that correct, 6'9", so a little bit of an undersized center for Power 4, 120 redshirt freshman. This is kind of where question marks are. It's center and backup point guard, right? Or kind of the true one. I really like Jasper Floyd, but I think we could get another point guard-esque person. And we've had a couple guys on campus recently. We'll see what happens with that. Harlan Obiha, 7 foot, 280. We talked about when's the last time we saw a 7-footer in Morgantown. Size will not be the issue. And I don't really worry about him as a player in terms of rebounding, offense, all that stuff. I worry about if we get into foul trouble, because it's bound to happen in the game of basketball with your big man, very good shot blocker. Where do we pivot, if we don't get another big man and we're relying on Odihire here, a really young guy, I don't know. It's a lot of question marks. Harlan is also somebody where, in the game versus Texas Tech in the tournament, played 23 minutes, 9 rebounds, 7 points. So don't worry about the rebounding aspect. Just something we're going to have to see and get used to, see how Ross Hodge uses him in his offense and defensive strategies. Is he a guy where if we get some bad switches, is he mobile enough laterally to kind of take on some of these Big 12 guards? I don't know. So a lot of question marks here at center. you feel comfortable. I know you actually really like Harlan, but in terms of depth and kind of overall structure, where are you kind of at with that?
I think that's what you're going to see kind of coming into this. We're going to have to get another piece at that center position, and not because the last name Oyedare. I'm kind of probably not pronouncing that
Oya
correctly.
Dyer. I believe, yeah, me either, but Oya Dyer, yeah.
So whenever you look at him, it's not that he's incapable, but he is 6'9". So is he a traditional 5 in the Big 12? I don't know. Things that you aren't going to have to worry about with Harlan, such as rebounding. When he gets the ball offensively, what is he going to be able to do with it? Those are things that I think you're gonna kind of question with the other center. I think you're going to see a pickup come hopefully sooner than later, maybe later into the next transfer portal. Hopefully a guy is unhappy where he's at or says, hey, I might be the third guy off the bench here, but if I go to West Virginia, I'm at least going to be the second guy. So I hope that's what happens at West Virginia.
And I want to throw this out because you and I were at the Arizona State game last year. 9:00 tip off for scheduling reasons, all that bullshit. They ended up losing the game. We saw how important and dominant a good center in the Big 12 can be. Jaden Quinnis, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was a freshman this past year at Arizona State. Now is at Kentucky. Absolutely dominated us, Noah. And if you run into these Big 12 teams who don't have a interior force, you can win games simply off of having a good center. Second chance points, dominating the glass, you get the gist of it. So if Harlan can kind of provide that factor of cleaning the glass, nobody's getting second chance points on us, then I have no worries. But he's human. You're going to have some fatigue and stuff like that, especially later in the season. So I think we do have to get another proven body there around the center position to complement him, because I do think he could be a really good player for us. Last name that we'll throw out. Go ahead, no, sorry.
I mean, just with being a West Virginia fan, we realize, the whistle doesn't always go our way. So some of these fouls that Harlan might pick up, they might not be what another team's getting called on them. So it's something that you have to have, especially in West Virginia's case, Gage, is just kind of depth at that, your 4 or 5 spot.
Absolutely. And one more guy I know that we definitely need to talk about, Jaden Forsyth, I believe 4-star recruit. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe you're right. Yeah, I believe you're right.
Yeah. Freshman coming in a weird way, not comparing the player, but he kind of reminds me of Powell, who just went to UNC. Kind of lengthy wing, really good shooter, shot 40% from 3 at his high school there in Westchester, Pennsylvania. While I don't know in terms of role, because there's a lot of older players there, specifically around the wing position, Moore, Eaglestaff, Morris, Huff, all those guys. This could be somebody where it's like, if he gets really good minutes here in year 1, and then a lot of these guys kind of departure just because of draft, transfer portal, we know how it works. This could be a guy kind of year 2, if he sticks around, where, okay, now he's ready to take on this big role. Because I do think from the little that I've saw of him, he is kind of capable of being a real scoring threat, specifically around the perimeter. And you got to have somebody that can shoot in this offense. And I think he's a perfect piece for Ross Hodge because of how well, percentage-wise, he can shoot the ball at the 3-point line.
Yeah. Forsyth and DJ Thomas, who was actually committed to North Texas and coming into West Virginia, are both our 2 freshmen that we're getting rolling in. But like you said with Forsyth, very Powell-like in the sense, if he gets hot, I mean, the 3-pointers can rain. Thomas and Forsyth, I hope these are guys that both get some minutes to kind of build their familiarness with.
And no, I think they will, because even last year, right, not Powell deserved minutes, but we found some certain ways to get KJ Tenner in the game. And granted, I don't hate him. But you could tell that KJ Tenner wasn't necessarily ready for that level of basketball. I think he moved on to Murray State now. But yeah, you will definitely have games and avenues where these young freshmen coming in will have an opportunity to play.
Yeah, it's just foul trouble, rotations, anything of that nature. Somebody's out sick with a bug, they get bumped up in the lineup. Just getting familiar with the game, the Power 4 game, let's say, especially in the Big 12, is something that everybody has to adjust to. And I think these are 2 guys that are going to be able to, and like you said, if they stick around, they could be key pieces in the roster next year. Really think Thomas, I mean, watching his tape, He's from Allen, Texas. He has the ability to be a lockdown wing defender. He can fly, Gage. He can fly. I think he can put his elbows in the rim. Let's be honest here. He's a guy that can really play. And Forsyth, if he's able to knock down shots, that's the biggest thing especially with shot makers. If they can hit shots at times, their minutes are only going to go up. I mean, simple as that.
Yeah, for sure. Undoubtedly, right, man? That's when you're on the floor hitting shots, man. There's no point to take you out. Obviously, I brought this up to you. We have yet to have a 20-win season, I believe, since 2019-2020. We've been right around the mark of like 18, 19 wins, stuff like that. So not saying that that's the goal, but man, let's go. That's kind of what we're shooting for. I would say that would put you in tournament conversation year one. But as we saw last year, who the hell knows what they're going to do with us in the NCAA tournament. But I do know that this team has the mold, and if things go well, this would not be a team when they're clicking that you would want to see in the tournament. I mean, maybe this is a weird take, but from playing AAU basketball and that stuff, when you kind of get these mid-major guys, it's one of those things where it's like, we don't care. We'll show up, we'll play anywhere, and we'll outshoot you, we'll out-rebound you, everything. I kind of think that's the mentality that Ross Hodge is going to bring. It's like, we don't care. Play at the park, we don't care. The bridge, who cares? Let's go. Any court.
Yes, sir. I think that's something that this team's going to embody in themselves. Just stepping up to the challenge, because when you look at our roster compared to other Big 12 rosters, you might have question marks and saying, okay, are we going to be able to compete? Well, we are. We're going to compete with these teams outside of, what we have talent-wise, but just pure effort and what Ross Hodge is going to bring to the table in his first year. I think that's what you're going to get. He's going to set that mentality early. So these guys coming in the next few years really understand what it is to be a Mountaineer. Gage, I have a question for the day. Did you have one, or you want me to roll?
I did.
All right.
Let's go.
Question of the day is, what do you believe the Coliseum? I don't know if you saw. Let's go ahead and get a little backstory here. Ren Baker kind of hinted to the fact that you could see instead of it being Milan Pushkar Stadium or what we know as the Coliseum, these guys have a advertisement, and it might be let's go Walmart, the Walmart Coliseum or I'm trying to think of a local Peter's Biscuit World. Milan. What do you think?
I get where you're going with this, and this is pretty simple, Noah. I understand the kickback and kind of the opinion shifted of a lot of people of Bob Huggins, how he kind of flamed out what happened. I still think that he is a GOAT, obviously, for West Virginia basketball, one of the best basketball coaches to coach. And what better way, and honestly, this just kind of fits all together. It needs to be the Kegler Coliseum. The Kegler Coliseum, Noah, and you could really take it one step farther and deem, get rid of Section 312, 311, yada, yada, yada. We need Section Kegler Gold, Section Honey Barbecue, Section just wing flavor. I think that would be absolutely sick. Don't actually do that because we would get clowned unbelievably. But the Kegler Coliseum, you got one in mind, or is that? I don't think you can top that.
No, I don't think I could top that, Gage. I just saw something on Twitter today. I was rolling through. Somebody said the Sheets Stadium instead of Milan Pushkar Stadium.
I saw that as well.
I do think this is a very good idea, though, for revenue. Just putting a brand on it. We went to a high school that actually named their park after a local business because they were willing to donate some money and get the facility better. So I think revenues-wise and what they're able to do advertisement-wise can really, take West Virginia to maybe like a mid-tier NIL or resource team to, the next level.
Yeah, and obviously Bob Huggins supported Kegler's local business in more ways than one. So, hey, man, as we wrap it up, don't forget, guys, the giveaway, 500 subscribers. If you have your kind of things hidden, make sure to comment so we can get you entered into the thing. Bob Huggins signed, Don Nealon and Major Harris signed picture, and then a Zach Frazier gold cap. Pictures will obviously be up as I'm talking about it. We appreciate you guys as always. It's almost July. Hang in there, man. We're itching for football season to start. But, yeah, jumping ahead of the curve already from basketball. And, hey, man, we appreciate you guys watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.